Good evening, campers, it's me, Kieran. Today we are going to talk about Kurt Vonnegut's fourth novel, Cat's Cradle. First published in 1963, Cat's Cradle is the story of John, a writer who is to get embroiled within a device that would freeze all water on Earth. Ice Nine. For a little fun fact, yes, that is where the band Ice Nine Kills got its name from. The more popular songs is American Nightmare, which you could use to describe this book. But to take your name from a science fiction book and then be completely dead set in your ways and not really want to progress is true Vonnegutian irony at its finest. I don't particularly like the band if you've not already garnered. Cat's Cradle. It's a game where you loop. Let's see if I can do this. I knew having a wife who knits would come in handy one day, peeps. How the hell do you do this? Somehow this is more complex than the actual plot line of Vonnegut. It's basically a game where you're wrapping string around your fingers, which I can't do apparently. Let's Google it. This is more like, oh, it's like that. Why can't I follow basic instructions? I put way too much effort into a book that I don't particularly like. But this is a Cat's Cradle. It's a piece of string. It's a stupid game. And through tension and intricately weaving your fingers through, in some way, shape or form, you create a cat's cradle. It's on the first cover edition. I should have literally just shown this. Well, you can't blame a guy for trying, eh? Just to vaguely keep it on brand, in amongst all these gaps, the motif is constantly said. Can you see the cat? Can you see the cradle? Now, some of you will say no. Some of you will go, well, you can't bloody do it, so what are you asking me? And some of you might just refer, once again, just back to this and say, oh yes, I can see it, but in fact the cat doesn't exist and neither does the cradle. This is what Kurt Vonnegut is trying to show us throughout Cat's Cradle, that we all live by these untruths. If you say yes, you can see it, you're lying, but it's harmless. They're harmless untruths. And this underscores the religion which most people will refer to when they talk about Cat's Cradle, Bokononism. Bokononism has been founded by Bokono on the island of San Lorenzo. In composing these calypso-inspired proverbs has garnered a cult following, and those who follow Bokono live by FOMA. They live by these harmless untruths. The premise of Bokononism is the exact thing that the majority of Kurt Vonnegut's work tries to portray, and that is that humanity is stupid and we are always doomed to repeat ourselves. It doesn't matter how many wars that we fight, we still seem to, through technological progression, do more damage and create more wars for ourselves. And this is where our old buddy, old pal, Einstein comes into play. Felix Herdeker has created Ice Nine and has divvied up this weapon of mass destruction amongst his three children. John the writer embarks on a series of madcap episodes with the Herdeker children ultimately trying to stop Ice Nine and then reluctantly thinking, actually, you know, it's okay, because now I have a hot wife. Vonnegut shows that humans won't really put forward ethical consideration or moral standpoints if, well, their life is pretty comfortable and they got exactly what they want. You can really avert your eye to what is going on. You can live a lie. You can live in ignorance. And Bokononism, the religion, does the exact same thing. Why be worried about the possible end of the world and the extinction of mankind in its entirety if you could just live a series of untruths? Bokononism is unlike any religion that you have come across. It is offbeat, it is irreverent, and it is really absurd. Vonnegut is known for these absurdist tales that he tells, and I would say that Cat's Cradle is pretty much the best novel that he has written, and it's probably helped by the fact that we don't have goddamn Kilgore Trout. If you have ventured into a number of Kurt Vonnegut's works, you will know the name Kilgore Trout. This is Kurt Vonnegut's own alter ego. It's his insert into his books. The Kilgore Trout serves as the representation of what the author is to do within works. I have a real fetid history with Kilgore Trout, and the two of us we're on speaking terms. Breakfast at Champions nearly killed me off, I can't lie. Vonnegut, not so much in his prose, but definitely within his narratives, can get quite complex. In a lot of his works, there's a lot of playing with time, and Cat's Cradle is really no different. But with Cat's Cradle, we really jump along these episodes and to try to understand where you are in the book and what is currently happening and why things are happening. It's almost pointless trying to keep all the plates that Vonnegut is spinning here. Arguably, and I would be quite comfortable with this rebuttal, you could say that the narrative of this is very similar to The Cat's Cradle, that there is a interconnectedness, but it's almost vapid. But the motif of The Cat's Cradle is really an extended metaphor throughout this work, because even though everything is connected, these individuals, these events, and these happenstances, everything is vapid between them. And Vonnegut is almost saying, well, it doesn't really matter who these people are, it doesn't matter what the events are, it doesn't matter which happenstances occur, this is going to happen at some stage. There's a message of, should we be wary of technological advances? Should we be wary about humanity as a whole? The catastrophic consequences of, say, dropping the atomic bomb doesn't affect the lay person, because the lay person has no input in any of this. And therefore, even though we know these weapons exist and we know the destruction that they can cause, we can quite simply get on with our lives. We live with this harmless untruth that this could possibly never happen to us. The claustrophobia and the paranoia that you would think is present is satirized and ironized throughout Cat's Cradle. We can't see the cat and we can't see the cradle, but we know it's there. And so with the destructive quality of science, we can turn to religion, we can turn to Bokononism, which allows people to live fairly optimistically. They can live passionately, they can live happily without worrying about the dread, the foreboding doom, and ultimate death and extinction that is on the horizon. Kurt Vonnegut's Cat's Cradle is my personal favourite Vonnegut, and everything else is downhill, especially Timequake. That book is a waste of everyone's time. But for me, Kurt Vonnegut doesn't really do much. I kind of went down into a bit of a wormhole of his works when I was about 21, 22, and even while I was reading 5 of his books, I was thinking, I'm not entirely sure what's going on with this guy or why people entirely like him. Cat's Cradle for me is a 6 out of 10, and while people might point you down the line of, well, if you want to experience a Vonnegut book, go for the ever popular, ever referenced Slaughterhouse-5. But actually, I would say start here. I would say Cat's Cradle is probably the best jumping off point for Vonnegut. And then never swim back, because you can't swim back, because Iceland froze everything and you're dead.